Hi everyone. Today we're going to be doing a polynomial long division question. We're going to be dividing, I've written the question in blue, x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x plus 7. We're going to be dividing that by x minus 1. So before we do this polynomial long division question, let's just remind ourselves, just in case you may not remember or have forgotten, let's remind ourselves what long division is. Let's do an example of long division on the side with just regular numbers, no x's, no algebra. So let's try and divide the number 7,815 by 6. Okay, so here we go. We're going to draw it like that. 7,815. We're going to divide that by 6. Well, the first thing we do is we take a look at the 6 and the first digit of the divisor, which is 7, and we ask ourselves the question, how many times does 6 go into 7? And the answer to that is 1, which you write just above the 7. As you can see, I've lined up the number 1 that I just wrote to make sure it's exactly above the 7. So 6 goes into 7 one time, and so as soon as I write that 1, the next thing I do is I take the 1 and I multiply it by the divisor. The 1 multiplied by 6 is 6. And then I put a minus sign and I subtract. 7 minus 6 gives me 1. And then I am going to bring this 8 down here like that. And I have an 18. The next thing I do is ask myself the question, how many times does 6 go into what I have here, which is 18? 6 goes into 18 3 times, and I write that 3 right above this 8, making sure it's perfectly lined up. Again, I've written a number up in the answer. So the next thing I do is I take that number 3 that I just wrote, I multiply it by 6, and I get 18. And I write it there, and then I subtract. 18 minus 18 in this case is 0. Are there any numbers left to be brought down? Yes, there are. There's the 1 and the 5. So what we're going to do is bring one of those numbers down. I'm going to bring the 1 down like this. And there's the 1. As soon as I bring something down, I do the same thing again. I ask myself the question, how many times does 6 go into 1? Well, it doesn't, so the answer is 0. Again, so I've written a number up there, I multiply that number by the divisor. 0 multiplied by 6 is 0. And I subtract that. 1 minus 0 is still 1. Is there another number to be brought down? Yes, there is. There's the 5. So we bring the 5 down as well. And now I've got the number 15. Again, I ask myself the question, how many times does the 6, the divisor, go into 15? Well, 6 goes into 15 2 times. I make sure to write that number 2 right above the 5. Make sure it's lined up. Again, I've written a number up in my answer. And as soon as I do that, I multiply 2 by 6, and I get 12. I subtract that. I get 3. Are there any numbers left to bring down? No, there aren't. This 5 is the last number in the dividend. And so, since there's nothing left to bring down, this 3 that I have here, that is the remainder. And this answer that I have here, the 1302, that is the answer, also known as the quotient. Let me write that a little better. What we're going to do now with polynomial long division is the exact same thing, but there's x's involved. There's letters instead of just plain numbers. So the first thing we do is we draw the division symbol. We write the dividend, which is the thing we're dividing, underneath it. And we write the divisor, the thing we're dividing by, over here on the left side. And then we're going to do the same process that we did over here with our polynomials. First thing we do is look at the first term of the divisor, which is x, and the first term of the dividend, which is x cubed, and we ask ourselves the question, how many times does x go into x cubed? Let me try writing that over here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to divide x3 by x. And the answer to that is x squared. Right? Because there's a 3 exponent in the numerator, there's a 1 exponent down here in the denominator, and 3 minus 1 is 2, so we get x squared as our answer. And we're going to write the x squared up here on top of this line, because that's where the answer or the quotient is going to go. So the question is, where are we going to write this x squared? Well, we're going to write it lined up with the x squared term in the dividend. So it's not here. It's not above the x cubed, because that's a 3. That's got a degree of 3. It's this 5x squared over here. And so I'm going to write the x squared immediately above the 5x squared, making sure that my x squareds are nicely lined up with one another. Again, as soon as I write something up in the quotient, the next thing I do, I multiply that by the divisor. So I'm going to multiply this x squared by x minus 1. And that's going to give me x cubed minus 1x squared. Then I'm going to subtract them. X cubed minus x cubed is nothing. And then plus 5x squared, subtract minus 1x squared. Let's do that on the side. Let's do it in a different color. 5x squared, subtract negative 1x squared. What's that going to be? Well, the two minus signs become a plus. So we got 5x squared plus 1x squared. That's going to be 6x squared. And that's the answer to this subtraction. The next thing we do, if you remember what we did in the example on the right with the numbers, is we bring the next term down. I'm going to use the red arrows just like I did in the previous example. And now I have something else to work with. I got 6x squared minus 4x. Again, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to ask myself the question, how many times does x, the first term of the divisor, go into the first term of what I have here, 6x squared? So 6x squared divided by x is going to give me 6x. And that is what I'm going to write up in the quotient. So it's 6x, which is plus 6x. So I've got to put a plus sign, separate my terms. And notice that I'm writing the 6x immediately above the 4x here. I've lined up my degree 1 terms, the 6x, with the degree 1 term of the dividend, which is negative 4x. Once again, I've written something up in the quotient. I've written 6x there. What do? I multiply 6x by the divisor x minus 1, and I write the answer down here. So 6x times x is 6x squared, and 6x times negative 1 is minus 6x. Again, we're going to do a subtraction. 6x minus 6x is nothing, is equal to 0. And then we have to subtract negative 4x. I'll write it down here. Negative 4x, subtract negative 6x. That's going to give us negative 4x, and the two minuses become a plus. So we have minus 4x plus 6x, which is positive 2x. And that's going to be the answer to our subtraction. That's going to be positive 2x. Is there anything left to bring down? Yes, there is. There's this plus 7, which is the last term in our dividend, and that needs to be brought down. There's the plus 7. And again, we need to ask ourselves the same question we asked before. How many times does x go into 2x, which is the first term of what we have right now? And 2x divided by x is equal to plus 2. And that's why I'm going to write plus 2 up here in the quotient. And remember, look, notice where I'm writing it. I'm going to make sure that the 2 that I write is immediately above this plus 7. I've lined it up perfectly with the plus 7. And then again, I've written something up in the quotient. So I've got to take that thing that I just wrote, the plus 2, multiply it by my divisor x minus 1, and write the answer over here. So we got 2x minus 2. Again, we have to subtract. 2x minus 2x is nothing. And then finally, we have to subtract these numbers. We're going to subtract this plus 7, subtract negative 2, and the two negatives become a positive. And so 7 plus 2 equals 9. And that is the answer to our remainder. 9. There's nothing left to bring down, so there's no more red arrows needed. And that's the end of the question. This 9 that we have here is, of course, our remainder. And the answer that we have here, the quotient, what we've got written on top of the line, that is the answer to our question. The answer to the question x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x plus 7 divided by x minus 1 is x squared plus 6x plus 2, the quotient, and a remainder of plus 9. Okay, so here's the results of the two divisions that we did um, a minute ago. On the left, we have the polynomial division that we did. We got the answer of x squared plus 6x plus 2 with a remainder of 9. And we also have on the right side the numerical arithmetic long division that we did, where we got an answer of 1302, remainder 3. So the final part of this question is, how do we know that the answer that we got is correct? Right? How do we know that the answer to the polynomial question is actually this, with this remainder of 9? And then how do we know that the answer to the arithmetic uh, long division question is actually 1302 with this remainder of 3? Well, the way we check that our answer is right is we actually take the 1302 that we got, and we multiply it by our divisor of 6. So let me just explain what happened here. We're going to take our quotient and multiply it by our divisor. And let's see what we get. Hopefully we get our answer of 7,815. But let's see. Well, 6 multiplied by 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 times 0 is 0. Plus 1 is 1. 6 multiplied by 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Do we have the 7,815 number that we used as our divisor? No, we don't. We only have 7,812, which is it's off by 3 from the actual dividend. Well, don't worry. That's where the remainder comes in. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the remainder and add it to the result that we just got. And when you do that, I think you'll find that 7,812 plus 3 is actually 7,815, which is the dividend that we used originally that we originally divided by 6. So that's how we know we're right. Let's just write that little formula down here in red. Very important rule. Write this down. Whether you're doing arithmetic long division like we did over here, I'll write arithmetic or polynomial. In any division question you do, this rule stands. The quotient multiplied by the divisor. So we multiplied the quotient 1302 times the divisor 6, and then we added the remainder. When you multiply the quotient by the divisor and then add the remainder, you always get the dividend. Keep that rule in mind. Write that down if you have to. Now let's use this rule to make sure that our polynomial long division is correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the quotient, which is x squared plus 6x plus 2, and we're going to multiply it by our divisor, which is x minus 1. Of course, this is going to require using the FOIL method. So let me just draw the arrows that signify and represent the multiplications that I'm going to be doing. So there's this one. Those are the 6 multiplications that I am going to be doing to check if our answer is correct. So x squared times x is x cubed. Well, so let me write it over here. X cubed. X squared times minus 1 is minus 1x squared. 6x times x is plus 6x squared. 6x times minus 1 is minus 6x. 2 times x is plus 2x. And finally, 2 multiplied by minus 1 is minus 2. Let's clean this up. So we got the x cubed, and then we add up the 2x squared, minus 1x squared plus 6x squared is 5x squared. So we've used those. Minus 6x plus 2x is minus 4x. And finally, the minus 2 is by itself. Let's take a look to see if this answer matches our original dividend, which is up here. And clearly it doesn't. The first 3 terms seem to be the same, but the last term of the dividend is plus 7, but the last term we have is minus 2. Well, that's because we forgot to add the remainder. So if I take this down here, and I write that down, and then I add the remainder to this, plus the remainder is 9, well then I get x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x, and the negative 2 and the plus 9 add up to give you plus 7. And this is obviously the dividend that we started with in this question. And that's how we know that our answer, the answer to our polynomial long division, is actually correct by using this important rule that I've put written in a cloud down on the bottom of the screen. That works for any division, whether it's arithmetic or polynomial. That's how you would check the answer of your polynomial long division. Well, I hope you found that useful. If you did, please click the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. We've also included a link in the description below where you can contact us and send us any questions you may have. Thanks for watching. Bye.